Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to be going over how we're going to be doing our video presentations for the STEM Fair in May. So this is going to be your opportunity to talk to the judges indirectly and go over your posters. So as I said in our previous email, basically what we're going to be doing for STEM Fair, instead of actually doing the project and the experiments and everything, most of us can't do that because of the coronavirus shutdowns. So you're going to be choosing the three basically most likely outcomes that you would be seeing in your project, and then then defending which one you think is most likely. So I'm going to go through the two different options for doing your presentation, and then showing you how to do that. All right. Oh. So two options. The first one is that you just record audio of yourself explaining your poster, and then you overlay that on an image of the poster. So in example, you just take your phone and then record yourself. And then you could, if you don't have a computer, you can send that to me and I can overlay that on an image of your poster. And then the second option would be doing something like I'm doing right now, where you record video and you have that in the corner as you go over your poster using OBS, which is the software I had a video on last time on how to download. So hopefully you already downloaded that and played around with it a bit. All right, so if you don't already know how to record audio on your phone, if you have an iPhone, you go to the Utilities folder, and it should just be the voicemail app. You can just record there. There are also a bunch of third-party apps that you can use. This one's already downloaded on your phones. And then when you're done with your recording, you would share that with me via email, which you can do within the app. On Android, it's basically the same thing. You go to your apps folder, and then their version of that is called Audio Recorder. So you would click on that, hit record, record your whole spiel, and then share it with me via email from within the app. All right, so in your presentations, they should be about 5 minutes long. So essentially, you're going to be walking the judges through your whole poster. For each section, you should use the amount of time suggested here. So for your introduction, you should only be talking about that for about a minute. For your proposed methodology, that should also be only about a minute. Expected results, that would be another minute, and then your discussion is going to be the longest part. That's where you're defending your selection of your outcomes. That'd be anywhere from 1.5 to 2 minutes. All right, so here is the template that you guys are going to be using for your posters. So you'd be putting your title in here. This is all going to be on Google Slides. So all you really have to do is insert text where it asks you to, and figures as well. So you put your title of your project here, your name and your partner's name, if you have a partner, and then summarize your introduction here. So just what is the most relevant if all someone is doing is reading this poster, what do they need to know at a bare minimum? Summarizing your methodology here, so that's your experimental approach. And then have a summary of each potential outcome with a figure that goes with them in the results section. Discussion is where you're discussing why you selected the outcome that you did, so defending why you selected, for example, like outcome 3 as your most likely outcome. And then go over briefly the potential of your project to help expand our knowledge on a certain topic or help others. Your works cited would go down here, and then you would put your acknowledgments in here. All right, so I'm going to get my phone out, and I'm going to make sure that I'm using the correct time so I can model this with you guys on a poster I made. Okay, so timer. All right, let me go into student mode real quick. All right, so let's go through this presentation. Okay, so the name of my presentation was Feral Cats, Menace or Saviors. So in my project, I was looking to see whether or not feral cat communities, which are very common in DC, have a negative or a positive benefit for the city. So the positive thing about feral cat communities is that they can help reduce the levels of rodents in the city, because cats eat mice and rats, so they reduce the overall numbers of those pests in cities. And rats and mice have a lot of negative effects on city communities, so that's a good thing. The other negative effect they can have on ecosystems is that they kill birds. So cats actually kill anywhere from 1 to 3 billion birds a year. So what my project is looking at is, do cats have more good side effects than bad side effects for communities? So do they kill more rats and mice than they do birds? So for my methodology, what I propose to do is that you would find 2 sites across, basically pairs of sites across multiple parts of DC, one that has a feral cat community and one that doesn't, but are in the same area, and then use remote photography to capture the number of rats, mice, and birds in that area over a span of 2 weeks, and match that to the relative amount of cats you see. And then compare the number of animals seen between 2 paired sites and compare them using a t-test. So the results that I would expect to see are over here. So for the first outcome, you might see that feral cats correlate with rodent reduction, but do not correlate with bird loss. So in this diagram, and then something you can do during your presentation is zoom in on your browser. You should be able to. All right, fixed it. You'll be able to do this when you're not doing it as a presentation slide. That's why I wasn't able to zoom in. Okay, so you can zoom in pressing Control plus or Control minus. Okay, so after I do this, or if you're in this, then you go to the magnifying glass here. You can zoom in or out. Okay, so for my first result, potential result, is that feral cat communities correlate with rodent reduction, but they have no effect with the loss of birds. So here you would see that the number of rodents is a lot higher when you have no feral cats than when you have feral cats, but that it's pretty much the same between no feral cats and feral cats when it comes to birds. The second potential outcome, come here, little monster, I'm trying to record a video, is that you would see that feral cats correlate with bird loss, but they do not impact rodent numbers. So we see that there's a big difference between the amounts of birds at the sites, but not between the rodents. For the third outcome, all right, for the third outcome, you would see that the feral cats correlate with both the rodent loss and bird loss. So you would see that there is a difference between the amount of birds when there's feral cats and no feral cats, and rodents when there's feral cats and no feral cats. So what I thought would be the most likely outcome would be outcome 3. The reason why is that I think that the effect of feral cats on rodent populations and bird populations is well documented, and that DC wouldn't be any exception. So that would mean that both the amount of rodents would go down as well as the amount of birds. However, a lot of our birds in the city are in Rock Creek Park. So a lot of the bird loss might not actually be seen in the city itself, because most of those birds are going to be in the park, not flying around the city. Basically, I think this project would help state and city officials come up with options for how to deal with feral cats. So one way you could deal with them is to basically take those communities and help them out. So that way those communities still thrive and they are killing all the rats in the area. Another way you can deal with them is basically rounding them up and taking them to shelters, so that way you get them out of the ecosystem so they don't hurt birds. So if they're hurting birds, you would want to have a response that reduces the number of feral cats. If they're not hurting the birds, then maybe you want more feral cats, assuming that they have that rodenticidal or rodent killing effect. So in conclusion, I think that this project will help city officials come up with better solutions with how to deal with this problem of feral animals, specifically cats, in the region. And then for here are my works cited, and then my acknowledgements, if I had any, would go here. All right, let's go back to the regular screen. Back into Schuster mode. Okay. All right, so that is the gist of what our presentations are going to look like. So you'll have your poster. I want you to have it on your screen so that you can be like basically scrolling through the different parts and explaining them in your video. All right, so I'm just finishing up this video by going over how you're actually going to be making these video presentations. So after you make your poster, and this is for if you're making it with OBS. So I'm in OBS right now. There are a couple boxes at the bottom. One of them is sources. So this is where we're going to go to make sure you have video capture device and display capture as your two sources. So to do that, under sources, you go to this plus sign, and then it's going to have different options. So the two you need are video capture device and display capture. So video capture is for your webcam, and then display capture is for your capturing your display. So it's showing your computer screen to your audience. So to add these, you just click on them, and then it'll ask you to create new. I already have one up. So that's why there's this two here, but it'll just name it like display capture or video capture device. You hit OK, and then you have your new source. I'm going to cancel because I already have that. And then one more thing to make sure that your video feed is always on top as you go over your poster. You click on that box and you go to order and then move to top, and that makes sure that it is always on the top of your presentation so your video feed doesn't get like downsized because you made something else go full screen. All right, well, if you guys have any questions on this, please email me. And as always, stay safe, wash your hands.